To the O-line's credit, I think that's a special relationship that not a lot of people understand. The O-line, they don't get a lot of credit and they get the most hate. So I think they need to make sure that they're loved up the most, and that they're valued, and that make sure I take care of them.
Oh, that's
Dang, bro, I like Dylan. All right, so if you are a Georgia fan like me, then like me, the last 2 weeks, last 10 days been pretty rough for the old Georgia Bulldog fans as we try to figure out what in the world's going on with Dylan Raiola in Nebraska. Well, we found out he had he I guess he had something in Nebraska that he couldn't get in Georgia, and I respect every little bit of that. But I've been combing the internet and YouTube and TubeView, and I found a video that I want to go over with you guys, kind of shed some light on what all went into that decision for Dylan Raiola. I think when you watch this video, I think you're gonna be like, dang, bro, you know what? I can rock with that. So let's check it out. Let's see what the young man got to say, and let's roll that clip, Coach. Roll that clip.
Well, we welcome in the quarterback, Dylan Raiola. It's been a crazy long journey and process for you. Congratulations, you're officially a Husker. Take me through the process and your decision and how you ended up back with the Huskers over the weekend.
Yeah, thank you for having me on the show. First, Nebraska, I always believed it was in my blood. It was in my heart for a long time. And, I just felt that I could be a part of something special that'd be bigger than myself. And, Lincoln, Nebraska is a great place, and the University of Nebraska is a special place to, have a college experience and, play sports with, some of the best fans.
So what we saw from that little opening couple seconds is he's been thinking about this for a while. This wasn't a fly-by-night decision. This is something he's been, trying to figure out this entire time for probably a couple months now. When you make those commitments, sometimes things change. So we from what we got in that little 40 seconds or so is that he's been considering this for a while, but the news didn't start breaking until like the last 10 days or so. Let's keep it going.
How has it been getting to know Coach Rule and this coaching staff? What did you see and like out of what the direction that they had in place there in their first season?
I love what I have seen so far. I think the thing that separates Coach Rule from a lot of people is just the way he connects with his players. And I think that's huge for a team like Nebraska. You connect with your players, you can really have a bigger purpose for playing on the football field than just, all right, I want to go play football. You look left, you look right, you want to play for those guys. And I think that's what Coach Rule does a great job of establishing and having his guys ready to play on Saturday night.
So if you read that title and you saw that thumbnail, did you know I said something along the lines of Matt Rule is better than Kirby Smart, and here's why. And to the Georgia fan, to the average football fan, you'll be like, man, you know what? Ain't no way Matt Rule better at Georgia at nothing. But we just learned from, at least in Dylan Raiola's perspective and his experience with these two coaches, one of the deciding factors between picking Nebraska over Georgia was relationships. And I speak on this all the time on Twitter about relationships matter in recruiting, man. It ain't always just about who being the best coach, having the best facilities. A lot of times it's about those relationships, man. It ain't about, how good you are sometimes, or how good a coach you are, how good a program you have. It's sometimes about the things that come out your mouth, those little things you do to, make these kids feel wanted and needed, and not just like another cog in the wheel. I'm not saying Kirby does that, but in this little snapshot, in this little microcosm of what the first 90 seconds, that's what Dylan's experience was. And he ain't trying to, bash Kirby Smart. He's just saying, hey man, I had a better relationship with Matt Rule and I acted on it, and I respect it. I personally respect it. Let's keep going.
Love that. Well, you've made several trips to Lincoln. You've been to multiple sporting events. You had the crowd chanting your name. You've taken pictures with babies, and I'm sure your social media has just been blown up. What does it mean to you have to have the kind of reaction and reception from Husker Nation?
I think it just goes to show how much, they know their sports, not just their football, but they know all their sports. They know their volleyball, they know basketball, women's basketball, softball. I just think it shows that, you have a great fan base that, you look forward to playing for. And just they're going to be there and support you through the ups and downs. And you've seen that since Nebraska has came up on the map. They sell out Memorial Stadium every single game, and I think that speaks to the kind of fans, and they have a lot of fun coming to the Nebraska events.
So, and when I tell you Nebraska loves this dude, like they worship this dude. I've heard stories or I've seen fans say things along the lines that they're gonna build a statue for Dylan Raiola, because when you think about it, Dylan Raiola is the biggest quarterback out of high school to sign to Nebraska. And when you really go back and look at the history, they ain't really had a 5-star. And Dylan Raiola is a legitimate 5-star. He's not, I know y'all get tired of me taking shots at Arch Manning, but he is not Arch Manning. Arch Manning is more of a 3-star than a 5-star quarterback. But that's besides the point. So Nebraska loves this dude. I think he will be much more valuable for Nebraska than he would have ever been for Georgia, even though I believe he could have did some amazing things here in Athens. But let's continue.
In this 2024 signing class, there are a number of legacies whose dads played for this program. What does Nebraska, the N, what does it mean to you?
Yeah, I think it means, a lot more than just football. I think it's nationwide. And I think it's special that you get to, wear that N on your helmet with the red stripe down the middle, and know that you're representing something, more than just that team that year, but all the people that came before you and laid that foundation, with Coach Osborne, Coach Solich, and all those coaches that came up through to help, keep Nebraska and leave Nebraska where it's at right now.
You come from a very tight-knit family. Of course, your relationship with Donovan, who's on staff here, has been reported on how close you guys are. How excited are you to get to be on the same team as him, to get to work with him and his offensive line that, hey, boy, they made lots of improvements. A lot of those guys are coming back. How exciting is that for you?
I think it's super exciting. Family is huge in my culture. The Hawaiian Polynesian culture, I think, is huge. So I think to have him on the staff is awesome. But, to the O-line's credit, I think that's a special relationship that not a lot of people understand. The O-line, they don't get a lot of credit, and they get the most hate. So I think they need to make sure that they're loved up the most, and that they're valued, and that make sure I take care of them.
Oh, that's awesome.
Dang, bro, I like Dylan. And like the more I watch his senior film, cause it was like a 2-year gap from his sophomore tape till he finally put out his senior tape. I'm like, man, dang, Dylan, you very good as a sophomore, but I need to see an update. And he sent the 17-minute update, and I watched the entire 17. I usually don't watch nothing past the first 3 minutes, but I love the fact that he shot out his offensive line. Y'all know me. I'm big on the offensive line, defensive linemen, linebackers, and tight ends. When you kind of start to hear this story, when you start to hear him speak on some of the things that played a factor in his role, he speak on the relationship with Matt Rule. They speak on the familiar ties to Nebraska. He spoke on the offensive line. If you follow any of my previous videos on Dylan Raiola, more specifically Georgia, when you look at the Georgia 2024 recruiting class, it really doesn't fit what Dylan Raiola does well. They didn't bring in any receivers. All right, they got a bunch of heavy, big offensive linemen that don't really translate well to a pass-heavy offense. They got a lot of 6'6", 6'8", 360-pound offensive linemen, which is good for running the ball. but it's not going to help your quarter. It's not going to protect your quarterback. So, I feel like that was a factor. I think that was probably a bigger factor overall than than Matt Rule, because I'm saying when you really look at Georgia's 2024 offense, them boys are big. Them some big boys. Like they're huge. Too big for me. I like my line between 6'4" to 6'6", 285 to 315, ideally 305. But that's the sweet spot for me, having 7 or 6 or 8, 6'7", 360-pound offensive linemen. That's a turn off for me. If I was a quarterback, I would not want to throw behind that offensive line because they're not going to be able to protect me. But let's continue.
Awesome. So how did you get into playing quarterback? Why quarterback? And what went into you becoming the nation's best quarterback?
I think it's not just what I've done. You know, it's the sacrifices my parents have made to get me to training. And I think quarterback's a unique position. You know, I'm very strong in my faith. And I believe, you know, strongly that God's put me in this position to, you know, spread his word and then spread his kingdom throughout, you know, the whole world. So I think that's a special platform that I have. But, you know, I think it's bigger than just, you know, being the nation's top quarterback. I think it's the relationships you build along the way and how you can meet so many cool people that, you know, hey, you might not think you're going to meet up with them, but, you know, you end up doing that. So I think football's a great game. It always comes full circle, and it's a great opportunity. You know, it's the ultimate team game.
Now, that's like the second or third time he's mentioned relationships. Just keep that in mind. He didn't say relationships or ties or family ties about 2-3 times already, and we've only about 3 or 4 questions in. And then when you really look at what's going on at Georgia, we've had a lot of players into the transfer portal. Y'all know I struggle with the word transfer and portal, but we've had a lot of players into the transfer portal. They were like I'm talking 5-star recruits, 4-star. We're not talking about 2-star, 1-star, long snapper. We're talking about 5-star blue chip recruits that have entered the transfer portal. So it could be something going on there with Kirby Smart. I don't know. I'm not closely tied to Athens, you know, so I'm just a fan from a distance. Let's continue. Oops.
Oh, I love that. Great answer there. So, you know, there's a lot of expectations that come along with having a dad that was the kind of football player that your dad was, but then also to go along with that, you're the top quarterback in the nation. How do you manage those expectations? I guess, you know, there might be some young recruits that are listening. What would be your advice on how to manage those expectations?
I think you try not to pay attention to those expectations, because I believe, you know, from my growing up, you know, you pay attention to expectations, you're gonna miss all those steps and all those memories and all those moments that you cherish, you know, with your teammates, if you're focused on that end goal rather than focusing on every step of that journey and understanding, you know, you have a lot of people that are pulling for you. You have a lot of people that aren't. So filtering that out and really just trusting your family that they have their best interests in mind for you. And I think the biggest thing on that one is that you have to just enjoy the journey. You know, you look too far ahead, you'll get lost in the mix. If you're not staying up to, you know, what you need to, you'll get lost as well. So I think you just got to stay the journey. Trust the people that you trust, and trust the coaching staff.
But did y'all hear that? This man said, and his is a great interview, by the way. He said, in order to manage expectation, you can't even look towards the expectation. You need to worry about the small steps you have to take to get there. Dang, bro, he also said family again. See, family, the small things, relationships. It's starting to make sense, man. It's starting to make a little sense. Georgia fans, y'all back up off of him now. I mean, you know, hey man, y'all back up off Dylan. Hey man, leave I see. And look, it's weird because I like Dylan more now than I did when he was committed to Georgia. Like, to me, it took some big cojones to say, hey man, I'm not going to Georgia. I'm gonna turn this whole fan base now, because SEC is like a mob. It's like a mafia. It's like a gang. So he turned that powerhouse away. And so I'm gonna go build with another program. I think it took a lot of courage and belief in your own ability, and those relationships just had to be that much stronger for him to get Pride away from Georgia like that. Because you got to think, this dude moved from Arizona to Beaufort, Georgia, just so he can be closer to Athens, and for him to go from Athens to Lincoln, or from Beaufort to Lincoln in 6 months is, that took some cojones, man. So let's continue.
Great perspective. Well, we saw a lot of young wide receivers making plays for this offense last season. A lot of those guys coming back. How excited are you about some of the weapons you're going to get to throw the ball around to?
I think it's going to be a lot of fun. These guys work hard. They made a lot of plays. They played a lot of football last year. I think I'm just most excited to get in there and go to work with them. I think that's what makes football so great, is you get to go to work with your guys day in and day out, earn their respect that way. And you know that they're going to want to put a lot of work in, and so am I. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. There's a lot of weapons. And, they're ready to go.
Ooh, see, we got relationships, we got small things, we got family, we got weapons. Like I said, when you look at that Georgia 2024 recruiting class, his class, it was nothing but big offensive linemen, running backs, defensive linemen. It was there weren't any real receivers. I think a couple guys are going to be conversion prospects that played running back in high school, but they're going to probably move them into the slot because they got that elite speed. But he's kind of giving us those little nuggets on what went into this decision. And honestly, I can't even argue against it. Like, he's, I didn't know he was Polynesian, man. I thought he was whatever. Moving on.
All right, just got a few fun questions for you to close this interview out. Who was your favorite player or athlete, any sport, growing up?
Growing up, I would still say I'm growing up. So I really like Patrick Mahomes. I try to model my game after him.
Okay, favorite cereal?
Fruity Pebbles, easy.
Easy. You didn't even have to think about that one. Favorite hobby outside of football?
I do love cutting hair. Cut my brother's hair, my dad's hair, a bunch of my teammates' hair, and really just hanging out with my family. Cutting hair is fun. Get to enjoy my brother and my dad, and then hanging out with my family is a lot of fun.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, Spotify Wrapped. Who's your number one artist?
My favorite artist, I would say, would be Rod Wave or Luke Combs.
Awesome. All right, last question. Rank these cookie flavors. All right, I got 4.
All right, so that's enough of that. But hey, man, like, all I got to say is, man, ease up off Dylan Raiola. That couldn't have been the easy decision. And as outsiders, which we all are all outsiders. We don't know what conversations were being had or not being had. For example, we don't know what Matt Rule was saying or that his dad was saying in relation to what Kirby Smart was saying or not saying. So we don't know what all went into those relationships because we've seen here in this video that he referenced family, expectations, or doing the small things to meet expectations, building somewhere, building something instead of being a part of something that's already built, building something. And then what else he said? Family, players, offensive line. He said they got a good offensive lineman. They have weapons there that he probably don't have at Georgia, even though we all know Georgia has weapons. But when we look at his class, the guys he will have to be there for the next 3 years, if he decide to stay all 3 or 4 or 5 years, he didn't see those weapons there in Georgia. But hey, man, y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments below. If you're tired of these overpriced recruiting services, come holler at your favorite coach at blindsidepro.com. Fill out my questionnaire. If I like what I see, I'm gonna hit you up on Twitter. Hope you enjoyed the show. I'm out.